I am here talking about how are we going to handle all of the increases in rates when, with general contractors, as investors, as homeowners, there's a lot of stuff going on here. How do we save on the money on those rehab loans? Because we talked about yesterday how there's going to be a lot of stagflation that's going to be happening in the economy. So if we know there's going to be a lot of stagflation, now we have to figure out what do we do next. So we talked yesterday about the fact that interest rates are increasing. Now, even though a lot of experts are saying that interest rates are actually going to be going down, we're still seeing increases in the interest rates. That's the crazy part. So, if we're seeing an increase in interest rates, how do we fix that? Well, normally when you see a market go down, like you see in a recession, that's when interest rates start to decline. However, stagflation kind of throws that out the window. And we haven't seen stagflation again since the 70s, 1970s. I mean, a lot of people weren't even alive back then. So, what do we do when this happens? Well, the answer is very simple. The Fed will probably not lower rates that much. They'll probably be very conservative. So, instead of seeing a 6.5% rate, which is what we were hoping to see by the end of this year, we're probably going to see rates start to increase as well because they're going to probably fight inflation even if it means causing a bigger recession. So don't be surprised if rates go to 7 or 8% by the end of the year. And by the way, this is for homeowners. I'm not talking about rehab loans like a hard money loan. I'm talking about regular mortgages. So if you have a 7 or 8% loan for as a homeowner, more than likely you're talking about 12 to 14% as an investor getting a rehab loan. So I'm going to focus this on as an investor. However, this also works for FHA rehabs, like 203K loans. You're talking about VA rehab loans, NACA loans. A lot of these things come into play that there's going to be a lot of challenges that are happening. And the only way to really solve this is to be able to make sure that we have the ability to fight those lower rates and have the right tools in place. So to do this, we need to focus on 5 items. Number 1, get a better ROI. And I'm sorry if my handwriting looks like a 5-year-old child. Hi, by the way, to those who are joining. I see a few more people are joining right now. First thing we need to do is get a better ROI. So how do we get a better ROI on properties? Well, think about the investments that you're going to make that make a bigger difference. So, for example, you're selling a house. I'm just going to use, again, basic numbers here. Let's say you sell a $100,000 home and you're putting in $20,000 in money and you want it to be worth $150 when it's done. Again, I'm not even including closing costs. I'm not including holding costs. These are just basic numbers. Well, what's going to happen here is that if you have a rate that was initially, let's just say 8% as an investor, which a few years ago was definitely possible to get in a rehab loan. I'm taking this again as an investor because investors a lot of times get the highest rates. So it was very possible in 2021, 2022 to get an 8% rehab loan. Now, it's very possible that you're going to be getting a 12, 14% rate, maybe even 15 or 16%. They're getting higher and higher. That means that we have to be able to have a higher ROI. So if you have $120,000 that you're going to put into a property, you want to make $150,000, you want your money to go as far as you can. And the best way to do that is to improve what you're investing in. You have to do your bathrooms. You have to do your, and I appreciate all the smiles and the love, so I appreciate that. You have to do your bathroom. You have to do your kitchens. You have to do your painting. The big things. Obviously, if there's some plumbing or some other work that happens, you have to focus on that too. But if you're not making sure that you're taking care of all the big items, you're going to have some problems. So that's the first item that we need to take care of. The second thing, and that's pretty basic by the way, this is something that works by the way, not just for now when we have stagflation potentially happening, But also, this works in any market. If you're an investor, you're doing a 203k loan, focus on the things that get you the highest return, especially if you're lending on that money. Now we want to bundle the projects together. So I'm a GC, and my company is here in Chicago. We're called Creative Smart Contractors. That's my pitch. I'll go into all the positioning later. But, here's the reason why we do this. We know if we put everything together and we continue to do that, we get lower pricing for clients. Now, I'm not telling you we're the low cost provider, we're not Costco, but by working with everyone all together at one time, we can combine your plumbers, we can combine your electricians, your HVAC, your flooring, your drywall. You're putting everything together, and by doing that, we're getting better pricing because kind of like when you buy in bulk at Costco, we buy in bulk. When we do stuff, we buy labor in bulk. We're not one-time clients. And that enables us to lower our labor cost even as things are increasing. And we're seeing this across the board is that the more we work with people, the more they want to give us better pricing. So it's something that we want to make sure that we're doing because we're giving them consistent jobs. So reducing those labor costs is huge because your material cost is going to be high because all the tariff stuff going on, but if you can reduce the labor costs, that could help you save maybe 10-15%. If you have a $20,000 rehab, I'm going back to what I cited in terms of those basic numbers, that's saving $2,000. Now, that's not going to save everything off the mortgage increases or the rate increases, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to poke little holes so you can continue to save. And by the way, if you have questions as I'm going through, I am watching the questions come in. I'm watching the comments. So just please let me know what questions you have. If I'm going too fast on something, I definitely want to know. If something's not making sense, say, hey, what the heck are you talking about? I'm okay with that. Next thing, number 3, let's talk about cost-effective materials. I'm just gonna, and I'm learning how to write all over again. As a former teacher, you would never imagine that. So let's talk about cost-effective materials. What's a cost-effective material? If we help you with doing hardwood flooring, let's say we need to sand and stain your hardwood floors. We're doing that for a client right now. It's $6 per square foot. We just talked to a client, $6 a square foot. They have 400 square feet. That's $2,400. Now, if we're helping somebody with the sanding and staining, let's say you're talking about a whole floor, which is a lot of times what happens. That could be 1,000, 1,500 square feet in a normal Chicago house. Chicago bungalow is going to be 25 by 50 for the dimensions. So each floor is about 1,000 square feet. You figure that there's a few rooms like the bathrooms, utility rooms that are tile, so you don't have to do those, so those are a little different. But 1,000 square feet times $6 is $6,000. Now, why do we talk about cost-effective materials? A lot of investors don't do sanding and staining unless the floor is already there and it's already easy for them to do. Because you could use LVP and save money because our cost for LVP, labor and materials, is about $4 to $5 per square foot. Let's just say $5 for simple math. So if you have sanding and staining, it costs $6 and LVP is $5. And like I said, this could be lower than that, but it depends on what type of LVP you buy. So I want to just give the highest number possible here. That means you're saving $1 for every square foot. Well, $1 per square foot doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But in reality, $1 per square foot is $1,000 that you save. So now, when we were talking before about bundling, we were talking about saving maybe $2,000 off this project. Now we're talking about cost-effective materials. We're talking about $1,000. Everything here is starting to add up. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to combat these rate increases by giving you a little bit here, a little bit there to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. It's a very old, generic term, but it's true. You want to make sure you're getting the most value for everything that you're doing. So that's number 3. Number 4 is we're going to leverage contractor discounts. I'm just going to put here discounts. Discounts. Who doesn't want discounts? I mean, everyone wants discounts, right? So, what do we do to get a discount? Well, if we're doing contractor discounts, we get discounts at Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards. We're getting discounts at Floor and Decor. Just got one at Tile Shop. There's a lot of different places where we can get discounts. And the benefit of that is if you're going to make an order, you could save money on those orders. So, for example, we just did an order for somebody where we ordered $2,500, $3,000 worth of materials. I don't remember the exact amount. Let's just say it was 3,000 just for an even number. If we order 3,000, what we do is we say, hey, look, we can't guarantee what the price of materials is going to be because of all the changes that are going on in the economy right now. We're seeing this, and all contractors are seeing this, where every day prices might change by 10%. Well, if you're having so much variation in pricing, then you need to be able to have a better way of doing this. So we say, look, we'll order it for you. We'll put everything together into like a Home Depot shopping cart, and then you pay for it while we're there, and you'll get our contractor discount, which in a lot of cases can be up to 10%. Why is that important? Well, if Canada has to go through with a 10% tariff increase, and Mexico does too, and we get a 10% discount on that, we're basically wiping out the tariff right there. And that's the cool thing, is that we might be able to wipe that out in some cases. I don't want to say completely, but if it's 10%, we're talking about, let's say it's 20,000 here in costs again, and you spend 5,000 in materials, you're talking about saving $500 maybe. Now, that's awesome. Let's talk about the final thing, planning. And this is going to be something that sounds simple, and everyone's like saying, oh, everyone always tells me to plan. And everyone always tells you to plan. Great. I'm sure I'm not the first person who ever said plan ahead when you're doing something. Well, let me give you an example of why this helps. We bought our first property at the end of 2019, Bernie and I, for our company. We bought our second property in March of 2020. That was our first gut rehab in March 2020. When we bought that property, it took us 8 months to finish that rehab. It was horrible. We didn't know what the heck we were doing. And the problem with that was we would buy the property and we would try and rehab it, and we had a few people set up to do the rehab, and most of them quit when COVID happened. Well, that was partially all the stuff happening with COVID, so I mean that's not fully our fault, but at the same point, we had one point in the process, we had one guy working on it, and I would go on the weekends and I would do all the menial stuff and do all the painting and do all the stuff that just could get done just so we can move the project along faster, but it wasn't enough because I was working a full-time job. So we needed to bring in extra guys, and we were eventually able to get a few extra people, but it took time to happen. Now the next property we worked on, we finished in 4 months. Why? Because we said, this is not happening again. We are not spending 8 months on a project that should take 4 months. I mean, there's always things that you can't control, but in this case, we're like, we're gonna get it done. And we were able to finish it. We spent a little bit more, but we were able to finish that. Now, why is that so important? Well, let's go back to this rate. Let's say that you have a rate, and I'm just going to say 12% for the rate. If you're getting a $100,000 loan, let's say you put down 20%, you have a $100,000 loan, that means you're spending $12,000 a year in interest. $12,000 a year in interest. None of this money even gets to go to you or gets any value to you. It all goes to the bank. It's all profit for the bank. Not even including any principal down payment, not including taxes, not including interest, or I'm sorry, not including insurance. This is $12,000 in interest that goes to the bank in 1 year. Great. We know that if we finish a project in 4 months versus 8 months, if it's $12,000 and there's no prepayment penalty, which a lot of these rehab loans do not have a prepayment penalty because they want you to be in and out as fast as possible so you get to the next deal, that means we could save $4,000 if we plan this effectively. Because by shortening the time from 8 months to 4 months, what's happening is that you're saving $1,000 a month. And that's what's really cool about this, is that we were able to find a way to save $1,000 a month. And by doing that, you're talking about $4,000 in savings here. Again, this is not going to make up for everything that's going to happen if rates increase, because if the Fed does increase the rates, I can't guarantee how much you're going to spend over the life of the loan. But what we can do is we can offset it as much as possible. So if you're in a rehab loan and you have 5 different ways of saving and you save 3,500, and then if you have 3,500 here, $7,500, that's probably more than what you're going to spend in additional interest in the course of 1 year. Because if the rate goes from 12 to 14% for a rehab investor, that means it's an extra $2,000. We've now just saved you $5,500. You're welcome. Now, does that mean every single thing will work? Heck no, it's not. And I'm sure you have questions. I'm sure you're like, wait, what the heck are you talking about? And the answer to that is, look, you're going to find some things that are going to work and some things that are not going to work. But if you use some of these different things that we're talking about here to save money on your rehab loan, you're going to be able to balance it out. And that's really what it's about. It's about making sure you have the right tools at your disposal so you can get the job done. It's about having the right team. That's really what we've discovered in the last few years, is that having the right team saves you money on these rehab loans, because, you can go out there and you can start arguing about the small stuff. And we've all been there. We're like, I'm right, this has to happen. But it always delays things. So just getting this done, getting it done fast is so important. With that said, if you have any questions on how to save, if you have any questions on what to do, please feel free to put it in the comments. Whether now when it's live or afterwards, I'm here to answer questions. This is Andy Nathan. I'm with Creative Smart Contractors. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day and a better week. Also, let me know if you have any ideas for other topics. I'm always open, always interested in doing some other topics. That's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to say. Oh, for those of you who are in Chicago, cash flow game tomorrow. Cash flow April 26th at A&N Mortgage. Definitely join us. Hope to see you there. Talk to you soon. Bye.